How can you improve your score in one day simply with mental strategies and practical exam tips? That's what I'll be discussing today. People do so much work in their build up and their prep, but then the impacts of pressure and stress constrict them on the day and they can't perform. If you've ever choked in an exam or had this sort of experience, then it's important to note because that's going to happen again unless you do something about it. And here I'm going to talk about 5 things that you need to manage and monitor, and if you get these things right, you will beat the rest when it comes down to pressure. So the first thing, practical thing that you're thinking about when you're actually sitting the test. So what time of day are you sitting in? Are you a morning person? Are you an evening person? Because the bookings are so congested, people don't have a lot of flexibility. And so it's important if your exam is at 2 p.m., try and do your practice exams in the build up around that 2 p.m. time. Lots of people will sit the test in the holidays, which is good, but make sure that time is around when you're doing your UCAT work or your high intensity work. It's different if your test is at 9 a.m. and you're practicing at 5 p.m. It's not ideal because that might necessarily match up on test day. Second is the location. If you've done all your exams at home, that might be different to you doing exams in a testing center like experience versus the comfort of your own home. So importantly, on test day, you're going to do the exam often with other people in the room. There's other people typing, there's noises. And so I would adjust my test location a few times in the build up to the exam just to get a feel for practicing in different environments, practicing on different computers, keyboards, etc. So my advice would be try and get in a couple of sessions at a library, or if you have access to a testing center before the actual time of the test, that's a good idea too. I'll skip to noise because that's associated with that. At home, you can be in the zone and you can basically organize your environment exactly how you want it. But obviously, you don't have that flexibility on test day. So in terms of managing the noise, some people will put in the big headphones. I use earplugs. So essentially, they're things you can get from the chemist and you essentially pinch them, put them in your ears, but you want to practice with those in, right? So the idea is to minimize the noise and help you get in the zone, but make sure you've practiced with those a few times. Next thing is stress. There's 2 different mindsets here. There's people who will think stress will negatively impact their performance. And you can easily say, you only get to sit the UCAT once a year. Most people only sit it once ever. And so if you make a mistake, if something goes wrong, if your brain doesn't work on the day, if you get a hard set and you ruin it, then you've sort of ruined all that practice is to waste. Now that is a harmful mindset. It's definitely valid, but you've got to try and work out what person you are under this sort of pressure, because that's putting a lot of pressure on yourself, especially if you're thinking that in, before, or during the test. Whereas other people will view stress as something that heightens their performance. If you actually think about one thing that was helpful for me is to think before an exam, what's the actual difference between feeling stressed before an exam and excited before a sports game? You feel that same nervous feeling. You're edgy, you're antsy. You've got this energy in your muscles. And for me, I think it's just more so thinking instead of stress, this could actually be excitement. You're excited to finish. You're excited to actually show what all that practice you've done and put it to the test and actually show that you're capable. So try and figure out which person you are in stress, which approach you would like to take, but it's about cultivating a mindset that will help you perform. You need to be a bit stressed to perform on this test. It's super fast, and you need to basically be in a bit of flight or flight mode to actually get things done quickly and to be at that peak intensity. So stress is not a bad thing. It actually will help you, I think, do things more efficiently, and hopefully you've done so many practice exams that it's just second nature, a lot of these things going through with things like skipping. So make sure you're thinking about your mindset with regard to stress and whether you think this is some all or nothing event and the stress will debilitate you, or stress will be something that helps you achieve peak performance. There are ways you can manage the stress as well. So if you found that, under exams you really struggle, basic things like, things like breath work, meditation, exercise before the exam, these are all strategies that I would highly consider, because any one of these will take 2 minutes and could be a game changer for you to manage that stress. The last thing is mindset. And the important thing with mindset is you have to go in there being willing to make mistakes. No one has ever got 100% on the UCAT. And so you don't have to be perfect. It's okay to mess things up. The most important thing is not your accuracy, but your timing. Just don't let one question take too long. But if you do the first verbal reasoning question, it's really long. It takes you a while. You just got to let it go, right? You don't need to get every single thing right. So expect, what will happen if I get, a couple of hard sets in quantitative or a couple of puzzles I can't solve in decision making? What will I do in those cases? It can be dangerous if you've been on a good streak and you're used to, doing all the questions in a row and never skipping. And then on test day, something happens and you blank, and then you try your best to get that done and correct because you're trying to go for the 100%. Just be willing to skip, move on. It's okay to get things wrong. And if you do that, the chances are you'll actually have enough time to come back at the end and then still clean it up and get it right. So expect or be prepared for a couple of hard questions. Even if there's not, just have that plan in mind. And remember, you need to have a strong skipping plan is the main difference. If you think about how you do on a easy exam versus a hard exam, the difference will be you get stuck on a couple of sets and then you rush the back end of the subtest. So make sure you're thinking about all these 5 factors, especially if you're someone who's struggled with exam performance in the past. If you have any questions about them, feel free to reach out in the comments or through my email. And I'd love to discuss these further and discuss perhaps practical things for things like breathwork and exercise. If you're serious about getting a good score, putting in, whether it be you have 1 month to go or 1 year to go, it's important with the UCAT to get yourself equipped with the best resource possible, because you need to be in the top 5 to 10%. So the first thing you should do is click the link in the description. This will give you access to my inner circle where I provide exclusive resources. The first of these is free PDFs. I every week will send out a free PDF covering some of my best strategies in each section. And so these include things like question types and key factors that you can consider. Additionally, by clicking out the link in the description, we can have a free one-on-one call where I give you my approach to practicing the UCAT and give you some advice and some free mentorship on how you can do well with this test and what it's like once you're in med. Furthermore, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for this to be the biggest area of free UCAT resources available, with videos, PDFs, and free calls. And so why not get your hands on these resources that have helped me and others get into med? Please do me a favor and share this with others if you found it helpful, and stay tuned for more videos on this channel. Thanks very much, guys. I'll see you next time.